The anti-government protests that was witnessed in Nairobi has exposed the colossal incompetence, the rot, the laxity within Kenya Kwanza. And I think today, what Rigathi Gachagua told the country is something that will be very interesting. The first speech that President Ruto made on Tuesday evening at 9 p.m., the president seemed to have been apportioning blame on Kenyans who, according to him, were probably, I'm trying to get the right word, that Kenyans that had hijacked or rather infiltrated the protests, and from that infiltration, that's what caused the mayhem. And in that, he seemed to have been blaming the security apparatus. And that is why in his submission he said that he's going to rushed and even activated the military to be deployed in Nairobi to counter the protest. A move that has seen LSK rushing to court and have secured orders to stop the president from that move, because they're saying the country is not yet in that state. But then, as that is happening, there was a press briefing today in State House where the president announced on some cuts, budget cuts, and that he was going to return the bill to Parliament. Just the same way even in Uganda, Museveni has returned the bill back to the sender, to Parliament. And in that submission, we paid attention, and conspicuously missing from that was the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua. The Deputy President has been in Mombasa for the last few days, and William Ruto and the team were talking in State House. And to the best of my knowledge, Rigathi Gachagua seemed not to have been invited in that meeting. It was about the finance bill, and that would create the split that has been here. And so when Rigathi Gachagua was talking, Rigathi Gachagua spoke, and the country was shocked. Immediately William Ruto finished his speech. Rigathi started his speech, his presser at 4 p.m. And he talked immediately after the president's speech, and speaking from different sides of the mouth. Ruto is saying something else, and Rigathi is out to counter and say it is there. I know it is not ordinary for the deputy president to have another press briefing to speak on government matter in something sensitive as the NIS. And Rigathi is out. His tone, his mood, the confidence, and the language, you will understand. As some people say, kanyaga shingo bado anapumua. Rigathi seems to have joined those who are doing the Lord's work. If you've missed that speech, this is one that you should watch to the end and get to understand reading between the lips, because I want to break it down in details.
As a truthful and honest man, I must acknowledge that we must engage Generation Z and other young people and all Kenyans, including the church, business community, on critical issues facing them. It seems that either we have not listened enough or we have not communicated our intentions effectively, yet many have voiced their concerns. I would like to take this opportunity to ask our leaders to stop the culture of castigating the people with different views and opinions. It is time for leaders to tone down and stop the habit of talking down to the people. And this brings me to the critical issue why I've got this press conference. As Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, I and President William Ruto were on the ballot and were given a mandate by the people of Kenya directly. I am an elected Deputy President, I'm not appointed. I therefore have a responsibility to the people of Kenya, and that responsibility is informed by my belief that honesty and truth are critical components of leadership. We have lost lives, property destroyed, anarchy, fear, uncertainty. How did we get here? How did we get here? We were just elected the other day as a very popular government. Where did the rain begin to beat us? Where did we stop listening to the people? President William Ruto and I were the darling of the Kenyan people by listening to them, by engaging them. And as a government, we have established institutions to ensure we not only listen to Kenyans, but also genuinely understand their concerns. We invest significant resources in these institutions, particularly the National Intelligence Service, for this purpose. It is clear there has been a failure in the intelligence and advice we are receiving, particularly concerning crucial government policies. The President of the Republic of Kenya today has admitted that it has come to his attention that the people of Kenya did not want anything to do with the Finance Bill 2024. The President has now agreed that we need to listen to the people. And I sympathize with my boss, President William Ruto, because this information was not available to him. I know President William Ruto. Had he known 2 months ago that the people of Kenya did not want anything to do with the Finance Bill 2024, he would not have asked his parliamentary party to push it through. Yet, we have an organization paid by the public to give him and government such information. And that is where the problem is. We have a dysfunctional National Intelligence Service that has exposed the President, the government, and the people of Kenya. Had the National Intelligence Service briefed the President 2 months ago about how the people of Kenya feel about the Finance Bill 2024, so many Kenyans would not have died. Property would not have been destroyed. Offices would not have been touched. There would have been no mayhem. But they slept on the job. It had to take people to die, property to be destroyed, protests across the country for the President to know the truth of what the people of Kenya feel. Yet, there is an organization paid for by the public to brief the President and the government about the feeling of the Kenyan people. Officers of the National Intelligence Service, officers of the National Police Service have told me in confidence they did not get advance intelligence briefs about the magnitude of the protest in Eldoret, in Kericho, in Nairobi, in Githurai, in Embu, in Nyeri. Since independence, there has been protests around Parliament. Never have protesters invaded and gotten inside Parliament. Senior officers have told me in confidence they did not have an advance intelligence brief about the intensity of the protest so that they prepare in advance. The National Intelligence Service slept on the job. And the problem is simple. The Director General of the National Intelligence Service, Noordin Haji, was a junior officer in the National Intelligence Service before he was appointed as DPP. When he was appointed to the office of the Director General, because of inferiority complex, he chased away all the people who were senior to him when he was in the service, therefore crippling the capacity of that service and making it dysfunctional. 3 directors were chased away and reassigned to desk jobs in ministries across government. 13 assistant directors, men and women with proven track record of intelligence collection and analysis, were removed from the National Intelligence Service, leaving a shell under a clueless Director General who has no capacity to run the organization. And that is why the security sector was caught off guard by the intensity, the anger of the Kenyan people, the agitation of the Kenyan people, the resilience of the Kenyan people. Had Noordin Haji done his job, we will not be where we are today. He has no capacity. He is out of the country most of the time on business trips. The country is on his own. My boss, President William Ruto, is exposed that he has to back down and admit that he has hurt the people of Kenya. Yet this matter has been in public domain for the last 2 months. I want to say that Noordin Haji must take responsibility for the deaths that occurred. He must take responsibility for the mayhem. He must take responsibility for failing President William Ruto. He must take responsibility for failing the government of the Republic of Kenya. He must take responsibility for failing the Kenyan nation by not doing his job and advising correctly. And he must do the honorable thing, not just take responsibility, but resign from that office and allow the president to pick a competent Director General. I want to request President William Ruto to consider, as a matter of urgency, to recall the 3 directors who are removed from the service and the 13 assistant directors to come and help reconstruct the service and get sanity back to the National Intelligence Service to serve the president, the government, and the people of Kenya. President William Ruto deserves better. He deserves a Director General who knows what he's doing. He deserves a National Intelligence Service that is effective and that can analyze situations and keep him and the government informed on what is going on. It is embarrassing to me as Deputy President that it has taken protests, deaths, mayhem, destruction for the President to know the truth, yet there is an organization charged with that responsibility. I have publicly stated that under this administration, Kenyans are free to criticize the government without fear of reprisal and state agencies. This was a promise made by both the President and I when we were sworn in. I want to call upon overzealous heads of security agencies not to be tempted to use the criminal justice system to manage politics. Let us manage politics the conventional way, through reaching out, consensus and concurrence. I am informed that members of parliament who voted no have already been targeted by the National Intelligence Service for harassment for their political stand. This is a promise the President and I gave to the people of Kenya, that never again shall we use the criminal justice system to manage politics. I want to say that the President and I gave a categorical promise to the people of Kenya that the issue of abductions and extrajudicial killings will never happen again. Sadly, this is back. It is unbelievable that the son of the Honorable Attorney General of Kenya, Justin Bidan Muturi, was abducted at night in a commando style by officers of the National Intelligence Service and held incommunicado for 18 hours. Yet, that is the Honorable Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya. What will happen to other Kenyans? I want to ask our law enforcement agencies to dignify the President and I before the people of Kenya and not backtrack on the promises we made to the people of Kenya, that we shall never again use the criminal justice system to manage politics. Yesterday, Noordin Haji was trying to put up a team together to craft lies and propaganda and attribute the chaos that were in the country to leaders I included, former President Uhuru Kenyatta and others. Yet it is very clear, and the President has admitted, that these protests were caused by the anger of the people of Kenya and their refusal of Finance Bill 2024. I want to call on the National Intelligence Service not to take us back to the dark old days of the Nyayo era, where you create propaganda and schemes to undermine leaders and those you don't agree with. I want to say in conclusion, this is a time for reflection and action. And we need to take immediate steps, as the President has guided, and I'm very happy, to engage the Generation Z. And I want to call that generation to tell us whom to engage, because they are leaderless, they are tribeless, they have no organizational structure, but we would like to engage the right people. There could be a temptation among some young people around us in government to pick some friends of theirs and attempt to bring them for discussion. So I want to challenge our young people and salute them for their courage and conviction and the love for their motherland to come up with a structure on how they can engage government in accordance with what President William Ruto has guided this afternoon. In view of the very wise decision by the President, in conformity with the wishes of the Kenyan people, to withdraw Finance Bill 2024 that was in contention, as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya and a patriotic son of this country, I want to appeal to Generation Z to call off the protests for tomorrow, because their cry has been heard by the President. The President has accepted that there was an issue, there was a disconnect, and the President has done the right thing. And I think it's only fair that we call off the protest so that we don't have further loss of lives and destruction of property. It's an appeal that I've made as a father, as a parent, to our young children. We love you, we respect you. Please, I beseech you as your father, now that the President has given in and accepted to go with the wishes of the Kenyan people, please, my sons and daughters, I plead with you to save lives, to save bloodshed, to save loss of property and lives. My sons, my daughters, please make an announcement this evening and call off the protest. And then we can begin the process of truthful engagement with the Kenyan people. We can begin an honest conversation on how to work on our country. Finally, I want to ask the President and our government to consider a plan on how to help those families that lost their livelihoods as a result of lack of proper advice by the National Intelligence Service. All these things happened because of government failure. It should never happen. Let us see how to compensate those families, those who are dead. We help those who are in hospital with bills, and we help to bury them. Again, I want to ask Kenyans not to punish members of parliament for the stand that they took. A government is formed by a political party. Once a government has a program in parliament and decides it is good for the people, members of parliament from that party must toe the line. I don't want you to punish our members of parliament. They just did what is right in terms of our political formation. Allow them to be. Allow them to support their government, because that's why they were elected as members of the government party. Let us not harass them. Let us not abuse them. Let us not attack their properties. They were just doing what the government wanted. And now that the government has decided to do the right thing, I think we should close that chapter. And if you have a problem with your member of parliament over this matter or any other matter, you will have an opportunity at the right time to punish that member of parliament or affirm he or her by re-electing him or her. And if we do that, it will be good for this country. Finally, I also want to ask the President to consider the issues of the demolitions of houses along Nairobi River, houses that had approved building plans, built on land with title deed were demolished, and only a compensation of 10,000 was given, which is unacceptable and unfair. Let us consider any landowner who had a genuine title, who had constructed a house that had been approved by the city authorities for compensation, because it's good to be fair. I really want to thank you and ask the people of Kenya to keep peace and to love one another. Now that this matter of Finance Bill 2024 has been settled, let us all go back to work. Let us be peaceful. Let us not be violent. Let us not talk at each other. Let's try to love one another. We have a beautiful country. We have no other country to run to. Let us not burn our country because of disagreements on issues. And I know as long as we keep on talking to each other, this country is going to places. As Deputy President and Principal Assistant to President William Ruto, again, I want to affirm to the people of Kenya that I will continue helping the President to discharge his duties in the management of the affairs of this country. I'll continue giving him proper and sound advice based on honesty and truth, because I'm the only Kenyan who took the Bible in Kasarani and swore before God and before man to advise President William Ruto. Many people have been very unhappy with me for saying things that are truthful, to a point of trying to isolate me because they didn't want me to say the truth. But I'll keep on saying the truth. I'll keep on being truthful and honest, because that is what the people of Kenya expect me to do.
Then I think we must agree with one thing. Ruto should actually understand the scope of the problem. The problem in Kenya Kwanza is bigger. And I think that government is split. If there can be a way it can be disbanded and people go back to an election, I think they should entertain that discussion, because it lacks synergy. Rigathi is asking questions that, and those are the questions I was asking, that administration must ask itself, where did we go wrong? Where did we go wrong? Because they actually went wrong. Something is simply not meeting. So, having listened to Rigathi, I want to explain the 5 objective points. While from where I'm seated, the reason why Rigathi Gachagua made that press briefing. Remember, over the weekend, he had been complaining that some people that have been supporting him were being harassed. So the narrative and this protest and the finance bill discussion came hot on the heels of the fallout between Rigathi and William Ruto. The first reason why Rigathi called that press briefing was Rigathi is countering a narrative of dragging individual leaders on that finance bill protest. Something significant happened, or some observation happened I made yesterday. Contrary to 2023, Rigathi was nowhere, and people were asking, where is Rigathi in all this? There were protests in Mount Kenya, the protests in Nairobi, and then parts of Rift Valley. And shops were burnt in Kieni. A shop was burnt in Kieni. Someone saying, you know, Kimani Chungwa's CDF office was burnt. Kimani Kuria also suffered. And I think by the mere fact that Rigathi was not called, was not invited for that press briefing in State House here in Nairobi, Rigathi realized that these fellows were already telling the country, because the country was already asking, where is he? They're already setting a ground, or he might have got intel, and as he's saying there, that there is a blame that people want to put on him. Remember, parents have lost their children. People have lost their limbs. People are stuck in hospitals in pain. Then someone comes up and say, so-and-so is responsible. So, and that had started immediately when Uhuru Kenyatta released the statement condemning what happened in the country and asking William Ruto to listen to the people. Kenya Kwanza bloggers started attacking Uhuru Kenyatta and saying that Uhuru Kenyatta is a financier. And that axis is being taken. You can see Uhuru being dragged, Rigathi, Raila, Azimio, and the other foreigners. There have been all that discussion with the CSOs. So Rigathi called that press briefing to counter and say, I am not the one. The second thing, Rigathi is telling the nation that William Ruto either two things. The intelligence team is either split or is incompetent. And in fact, for why is he blaming intelligence? In real sense, what he's saying that let's not talk about criminals. You know, he's not, yesterday, Ruto called protesters criminals. And I saw Kenya Kwanza MPs that appeared in some television stations and some interviews today. They're also talking of bragging criminals. And I, even personally in the board, I believe that that protest, it's highly possible that it was infiltrated by some criminal elements. But Rigathi is saying that let's not blame that 5% criminal thing. The big problem here is this bill has been unpopular. And we just needed to listen to the people. And so he's advancing the narrative of listen to the people. And under NIS, I want to really expound on this. He's saying that those who are there, who are competent enough, were chased, shown the door. And then he's talking about people who are relieved of their duties when William Ruto came into power. So it's either they are blaming him, they're blaming the intelligence, and of course someone would want, you'll believe, why would a deputy president come out and attack the director general of the NIS? Why? And it's setting a big trap. If they try, he's calling out those abductions. Calling out on those abductions. We campaigned on the platform that there was not going to be those abductions. One thing that someone would expect is Rigathi to support Kenya Kwanza. Now, if there is something going on, Rigathi has taken a stand and is not going with Kenya Kwanza or that direction. So, the conflicting reports, is it he's saying there are some police senior officers that confided to him in confidential that things are not good. But I want to tell Rigathi something. It's not entirely true that Ruto is not being served the right intelligence. Because even apart from the intelligence, I'm very sure if William Ruto was to make 100 calls to Kenyans, randomly, being given random numbers, and say, just call, ask them, hey, mnapenda hii bill mampendi, he will just know people don't like this bill. You watch these media interviews, before even you compare what the intelligence team are telling you, and you listen to how people are reacting in social media, and you listen to what's happening in the mainstream media, and you see how organizations and NGOs and companies are reacting, it is very evident. So I don't agree with Rigathi that Ruto did not know that that bill was unpopular. Ruto knew, but the challenge here is, he stood his ground and what seemed to be backing. And of course, there was a powerful force behind the finance bill. I think, to me, that's what I say. Number 3, and this is a big thing. Rigathi is telling the country, remember when Ruto spoke, Ruto blamed security apparatus, and last night there was a reshuffle. The Nairobi police commander, Adanson Bungei, was recalled back to the headquarters and replaced by the commander from Homa Bay. And that was yesterday. And if you see, the police were saying that they did not have a full picture of what would have happened on that Tuesday. They did not have a full picture. And that confirms what we've been saying here, that we underestimated the protests. So police were blamed, that the council around the president blamed the police for laxity, for failing to manage. But the police were also saying, we didn't have full picture. We didn't have full picture. We're not given a good intelligence report on what would happen. So Rigathi is defending the police. And that is why I'm telling you, there is a lot of camps emerging. Even within, there are camps within the NIS, there are camps within the security sector, and there will even be camps even in that military. Rigathi is explaining something. And he's talking about internal issues, confidential matters that no one will actually be willing to come out and say that. I remember when, and I think Ruto is getting this, it's a very fair share. I remember when he used to go and say, he also spoke about intelligence when he was campaigning. And so that reshuffle is even creating more reaction. Now the Haji has realized he wants to side with the people and to make his way, to put up his statement that he sides with the people. Because that is the choice that politicians will have to make. Politicians will have to make. Ruto failed to sympathize. I've seen, and I've took keen interest on abductions. He has said the son to AG was abducted. We analyzed that video here. No one had a clue, an idea what exactly that is. But if you see Rigathi coming out to say if the son of AG can abducted who is safe, then it means he's talking on behalf of that AG. So clearly, that AG, Muturi, is likely also not happy with President Ruto. That is what is coming out there. So the splits are deep. I think the biggest challenge, that President Ruto might have many challenges dealing with the public. You might think that if you take that bill, and I don't buy taking bill austerity measures, those things have been said and said. Austerity measures we've been saying, but politicians will still splash millions in public. And that's what is making people very angry. But Rigathi is asking you guys, the Gen Z, to retreat and provide leadership to negotiate with the government. I don't know why. I think he's just trying to break the stalemate, and he's trying to tone it down, trying to ask to those from other areas because they've realized things are worse. But I think not yet. It will be interesting to see how Thursday looks like. What is your assessment on Rigathi's statement, guys? That is my take. Let's meet in the next.